Hello. Today we are going to review one of the reports in the Measures of Academic Progress or MAP system. Specifically, we will be looking at the Achievement Status and Growth Summary Report. One of the purposes for the district in purchasing the MAP program is for teachers and administrators to have the ability to monitor student academic growth more closely over time. This report shows student academic growth from the fall BOY testing window to either the winter MOY or spring EOY testing windows. In order to pull this report up, you will first need to log in to the MAP system and click on MAP Reports under the View Reports and Instructional Resources heading. The Achievement Status and Growth Report is the top report on your list. Once you have clicked on the report, you will need to make some choices. At this point, depending upon your level of MAP access, you are seeing one of three different screens. Regardless of your level of MAP access, you will need to choose the term you are wanting to look at. Currently, you will need to select the winter term. At the end of the school year, you will want to select the spring term. For those individuals who have access to more than one campus, you will need to select the campus you would like to view. Once you have made your campus selection, you will need to scroll to the bottom of the page and click Next. Once you click the Next button, you will be looking at the list of teachers from that campus. You will need to select the name of the teacher you would like to look at. Scroll to the bottom of the screen and click Next. For those individuals with campus access, you are one step ahead. You will not need to choose your campus name as you will already be seeing the names of your teachers. Select the name of the teacher you would like to look at and then scroll to the bottom of the screen and click Next. For those with classroom access, you're 2 steps ahead and you are already seeing your class section numbers. Regardless of your level of MAP access, at this point you should be seeing the class section numbers for the teacher you have chosen, or if you are a teacher, you should be looking at your own class section numbers. Typically, the class section at the top of the list is the homeroom section number. The class section numbers below the homeroom section number are the reading, math, science, and social studies section numbers if self-contained, or the various classes if departmentalized. For this presentation, I have selected the homeroom section number. The report options I have left defaulted to fall to winter, and none for the optional grouping. After the EOY testing window in May closes, you will have more growth comparison period options. You will need to click Create Report at the bottom of the page. Let's look at the different components of the Achievement Status and Growth Summary Report. On the report you pull up, you will see the teacher name and class section number at the top. You will also see student ID numbers and student names on the left side of the report. Due to confidentiality, these items have been removed from the report on this slide. The first thing we will look at is the Fall 14 Test RIT. This is the RIT score the student received during the fall BOY testing window. Following this is the Fall 14 standard error. The standard error is a statistical number that represents a confidence band. Put simply, this standard error means that if the student were to retake the test within the same time period, their new RIT score would be plus or minus the standard error from their original RIT score. So let's look at the highlighted example on this report. The student initially received a RIT score of 183 with a standard error of 2.9. Their new RIT score, if they retook the test, would most likely fall somewhere between a 180 and a 186. Next to the Fall 14 scores are the Winter 15 scores. You will see the RIT score each student received along with their standard error. Let's look at the highlighted example on this report again. In the Winter 15 window, this student received a RIT score of 196 with a standard error of 2.9. So if the student were to have retaken the assessment during the winter testing window, this student would most likely have earned a new RIT score somewhere between 193 and 199. As you can see, overall, this student grew 13 points from the 183 RIT during the BOY testing window to the 196 RIT in the MOY testing window. Is this considered good growth? Moving across the report, the next part of the report includes the growth standard error and the Winter 15 growth projection. The growth standard error is very similar to the previous Fall 14 and Winter 15 standard errors in that it is also a confidence band. When referring to growth, this standard error means that if a student were to test again during the same time period with a comparable test, the student would have a 68% chance of their growth falling plus or minus the standard error from their actual growth. The Winter 15 growth projection is the expected growth that the student should have from fall to winter. Let's look at the highlighted example on this report again. You will notice that it is the same student that we previously looked at. The growth standard error for this student is 4.1. This means that if the student were to retest during the same time period with a comparable test, their growth would fall plus or minus the standard error from what they actually grew. So in other words, this student grew 13 points from fall to winter. This confidence band tells you that if the student were to retake the assessment, their growth would have a 68% chance of falling somewhere between 9 and 17 points. This takes their 13-point growth and takes plus and minus the 4.1 growth standard error. This still hasn't answered the question, is this considered good growth? Now look at the Winter 15 growth projection. This growth projection is the expected growth for a normal student at that grade level for that subject. In this case, the projected growth is 6 points. It is expected for a student to grow 6 points from fall to winter. This student grew 13 points. Did they make good growth? The answer is yes. This student didn't just make good growth, this student made excellent growth. Every grade level in every subject has different levels of expected growth. This slide shows winter growth, September to January, and spring growth, September to May, for both reading and math. The top table is for MPG, which is administered to grades kindergarten through second grade. The bottom table is for MAP, which is administered to grades 3 through 9. Let's look at the kindergarten reading. Normal growth for a kindergarten student from September to January is 9 points. Normal growth from September to May is 15 points. This means that a normal kindergarten student would be expected to grow 9 points from BOY to MOY, and then grow an additional 6 points from MOY to EOY to achieve the total expected growth of 15 points. MAP growth is interpreted exactly the same. Let's look at grade 4 math. From the BOY to MOY window, normal growth is 5 points. When looking from BOY to EOY, the expected growth is 9 points. Not all school districts give an MOY administration. That is why growth is always based from the BOY window to either the MOY or EOY windows. It is also important to note that students with lower RIT scores that are behind their peers academically would need greater than normal growth in order to catch up with their peers. Let's go back to our achievement status and growth summary report now that we know what expected growth is for the various grade levels and subjects. We have now moved over to the last 3 columns on the report. Winter 15 projected RIT, growth projection met, and growth index. The winter 15 projected RIT is simply the fall RIT plus the winter 15 growth projection. This is the score that a student with normal growth would be expected to achieve during the winter MOY administration. The growth projection met column is a yes or no. Did the student meet that winter 15 projected RIT? Did the student achieve normal expected growth? This is a column where you want to see a lot of yeses. The growth index is by how much the student exceeded the normal growth or missed the normal growth by. A 0 in this column means the student met the expected growth exactly. Let's look at 2 examples. One where the student met expected growth and one where the student did not meet expected growth. Student number 1 on the list has been highlighted. This is the same student we have been looking at in the previous slides. If you remember, this student received a RIT score of 183 during the BOY test administration. Their winter 15 growth projection was 6 points. If you add the BOY RIT score of 183 with the growth projection of 6, you get a RIT score of 189. you will see that 189 under the Winter 15 projected RIT column. The next column over tells you yes or no. Did the student reach that 189 winter projected RIT? In this case, the student received a 196 RIT score in winter. So yes, the student did meet the 189 projected RIT. The growth index lets you know by how much the student exceeded the 6-point projected growth. You see a 7 in this column for this student. The student met the projected growth of 6, plus they grew 7 additional RIT points for a total of 13 RIT points. So the 7 under the growth index lets you know that the student exceeded normal growth by 7 points. Now, let's look at a student who did not meet expected growth. Here is a student that received a RIT score of 208 for BOY and a 200 RIT score for MOY. This student went down 8 RIT points from BOY to MOY. You can see that their winter 15 growth projection was 6 points. So if you take the BOY RIT score of 208 and add the winter 15 growth projection of 6, you get the winter projected RIT of 214. Did the student meet the growth projection of 214? You can see the no in the growth projection met column telling you that no, the student did not meet the normal growth goal. The growth index shows a negative 14 for this student. The student was projected to grow to a RIT score of 214. The student actually achieved a RIT score of 200 during the MOY test administration, which means that the student is 14 points below their projected RIT. Not only did the student not meet the normal expected growth of 6 points, but they fell behind 8 additional RIT points. This would be a student that would need to be looked at to figure out why they did not grow academically. Now that we have worked across all of the columns on the Achievement Status and Growth Summary Report, let's look at the summary statistics at the bottom. The first number lets you know how many students in the class have a valid beginning and ending term score. In this example, it is the BOY to MOY testing window and all 20 students have scores. You may see an asterisk for some students under the RIT score columns. This means that the student does not have a RIT score for that testing window. This first number counts students who have both a beginning and ending term score. If a student is missing one of these scores, they are not counted in the summary statistics. The second and third numbers show the count and percentage of how many students met or exceeded their projected RIT. In other words, how many yeses are there in the growth projection met column? A typical class will fall somewhere between 50% to 60% of students meeting or exceeding their expected growth according to NWEA. Our example shows 65% of students meeting or exceeding their projected growth for this class. With this being said, it is important for all students in the district to show academic growth. Let's look at the fourth number. This is the overall percentage of projected RIT met or exceeded. If every one of the students in the class met exactly the expected growth and achieved the projected RIT, no more, no less growth, this fourth number would be 100%, meaning that 100% of the expected growth was met by 100% of the students in the class. Chances are this number will not be 100%, but will be some other number. So what does that mean? Well, in order to figure this number, you divide the amount of growth a class actually made by the growth projection. Luckily, you will not need to do this math. What you do need to know is that a number greater than 100% means that the class overall made greater than normal expected growth. A number less than 100% means that the class overall made less than normal expected growth. Keep in mind with this number that if there are a couple of students in the class who made huge gains or likewise decreased by huge amounts, this percentage can be skewed. So this number or percentage needs to be looked at in connection with the percent of yeses to gain a better, more accurate picture of the class. In this class, the overall percentage of projected RIT met or exceeded is 125.4%, with 65% of students meeting or exceeding their projected RIT. This class did pretty well from BOY to MOY. The last four numbers in the summary statistics of our example report show the count of students with a winter test score, the mean or average RIT score for the class, the median RIT or middle RIT score for the class, and the standard deviation for the class. This brings us to a close with the Achievement Status and Growth Summary Report overview. I hope this presentation has brought more meaning to this report for you. If you have any questions regarding MAP, please do not hesitate to contact either Ebony Forte or Pam Neblett in the Research Assessment and Accountability Department. Thank you for your time.